Well, we're at the International Food and Drink Expo in London to talk about basically how tobacco-style regulation soon may be moving into the drink and food sector. And when I talk about this type of regulation, I'm talking about extreme regulation. So it could be punitive taxes, it could be pictorial health warnings, and of course at the very extreme end, plain packaging, like what is coming in May in tobacco.
What's been the reaction from other food and drink companies, other exhibitors?
Well, we've had a huge amount of response particularly from small and medium-sized businesses. We had gin companies coming up to us saying, we're really nervous that we may be next. We could be the next tobacco. We're starting to see reports, I think you may have seen in Public Health England, actually issued a statement or a report in December, actually stating that they are considering plain packaging for alcoholic products. So, as we've seen in tobacco, which was actually introduced in Australia a few years ago, there was already an existing decline in smoking, and as a result of plain packaging, nothing actually changed. On top of that, a few years later, there was starting to become an issue with illegal trade in tobacco. Now, we are nervous about that happening in the UK on tobacco, but of course for alcohol that could also happen. As products start to become the same, then it's more difficult for consumers to try to understand what is real versus what is fake.
You and Imperial Brands have the UK market, for example, more or less sewn up between you. Plain packaging puts up huge entry barriers. You're never going to lose market share effectively, are you?
Well, remember that we're at an international trade show. This is not just about the UK. The UK is one of the very few countries that has decided to implement this failed policy in Australia and copy-paste it into the UK. Of course, we're looking at other countries as well, and that's why we think it's important for all brand owners, whether it's tobacco companies or food and drinks companies, to explain why brands are important so that the same failed policy doesn't get copy-pasted elsewhere.
Why do you think plain packaging has failed in Australia?
Well, if you look at the government's own data, you can see that after a few years of implementation, there was already an existing decline in smoking, and plain packaging came in and it didn't accelerate that decline. As I said earlier, there was an increase in the illegal trade of the illegal tobacco of about 20%. Now, Australia doesn't have many borders, of course, round it. The UK, it would be quite easy for people to start to potentially, as taxes go up and as the products become looking the same, that potentially consumers could be duped and start to move in accidentally into the illegal trade.
What's your expectation as to what plain packaging is going to do to your business in the UK?
It's important for any policy that comes in that government should measure its effectiveness. The Australian government had terrible difficulty finding anything that good came out of plain packaging in Australia. Sadly, that was imported here. We're going to look after the end of May, when plain packaging comes into tobacco, to see, did it actually really work? What was the effect? We can already assume that there will be some down trading, but the main priority for us is to see how will this affect the illegal trade in tobacco. That's the most worrying for us.